Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm just going to be going over my Nintendo handheld gaming collection and my overall history with each of these systems. And first up on the list, I have to go with the OG. Now, this is the Nintendo Game Boy, and surprisingly enough, this might surprise a lot of you people, but this was the first Nintendo system that I actually remember playing in my life. And I used to play games like Mario Land 2, Wario Land. I didn't have Pokemon at the time, which, as you guys know, is probably the most popular game from the Game Boy. I didn't have Tetris, but, this, Link's Awakening, these are all games that, at a very early stage in my life, at about 5 years old, I would play the Nintendo Game Boy. A lot of these games still hold up. It's extremely hard to play without a backlight, but they're still fun, and you can get a lot of good time out of this. Alright, next I want to say, I do not own a Game Boy Color. Alright, and next up, I'm gonna go over the Game Boy Advance SP. Now, I really do not like this thing. It's very, very small. This one, of course, is very, very dirty and I need to clean it, but it does have a backlight as compared to the original Game Boy Advance model. However, the screen, it's the same size, and the form factor obviously makes this extremely portable. However, it's not very comfortable to play. So if I were to make my mind up between playing this or the original Game Boy Advance model, I would choose the original every single day. And speaking of the original, here it is. This is the Game Boy Advance, just the original, not the SP. This one, I like the form factor of quite a lot more. The only problem is, of course, this one doesn't have a backlight. You can, in fact, mod this to have a backlight, which I'm probably going to do at some point, mod this thing with a backlight and new charging ports and all of that. This one doesn't have a game in it or any batteries in it. I'm also gonna have to find a backplate for this, because big ass hole in the back of this. But now the Game Boy Advance line isn't my favorite. I do like the games on the Game Boy Advance, Pokemon Fire Red, Emerald, Ruby Sapphire. I do have all of these games for the Game Boy Advance. However, these two systems, I'm just not the biggest fan of personally. With a soldering iron and a couple mods, these things might end up being personal gems in your collection. But if you're trying to play any of the original Game Boy Advance games, definitely go with a DS Lite. Or the original DS, but the original DS is kind of bulky, so this, I would say the DS Lite, if you're gonna go for the original DS that can backwards compatibly play Game Boy Advance games, go with the DS Lite. So next up, I want to go over the Nintendo DS Lite. Now this is a Mario Brothers special edition. I believe this was the 20th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, this one, it's the original model, so this thing folds like a damn alligator mouth. Yeah, not very great. It'll just lay flat like this the whole time, which very annoying. But the buttons are very clicky. I remember, this one was the first Nintendo DS model that I've ever had. And I remember in after school, we would just, play Picto Chat on this thing, or, Mario 64 DS multiplayer. New Super Mario Brothers multiplayer was very, very fun back in the day. And, I have a lot of reverence for this thing, and I'm glad that I still have this one around, because, this thing is very sentimental to me. And speaking of Nintendo DS Lites, I also have this kind of glossy red one with has a black backplate for some reason. I don't know why they did that. I didn't ever play this one. I'm sure I got this secondhand from a garage sale somewhere. But yeah, that one's still in working condition. I haven't gotten around to playing on that one yet, but that's also a part of the collection. And next up here, I have my first Nintendo DSi model. Now this is the original model. It has the front camera here, obviously. This one has the SD card slot on the side, which, as we all know, this is not consistent, and also the stylus holder is on the side. What can I say about this one? A lot better screen. It was around the same time that I had gotten into the original Nintendo DS model, so the DSi wasn't really its own system. And I know a lot of Nintendo fans will come out here and say, oh, the Game Boy Color, it was its own system. Or say something like the Nintendo DSi was some kind of successor to the Nintendo DS Lite. It's not. The Nintendo DSi plays all of the same games. It's just software at the end of the day. You know, you have stuff like Flipnote, which is cool. I loved playing around with Flipnote. A lot of people made some pretty damn cool animations on that thing, and you know, it's cool looking back because that's how a lot of animators actually got their start, was playing Flipnote on this very device, and you know, I'm still glad I have one of these lying around. And this one is one of my prize gems here. This is the Super Mario Bros. 25th anniversary Nintendo DSi XL. Now this one has one of the best screens if you're looking for original DS content and you don't want it to be stretched on the Nintendo 3DS, or if you're looking for 2D games. This D-pad right here, very, very snappy and comfortable. I really love this one. If I'm trying to play, you know, original DS or DSi games, this model is the one that I go for. This is my go-to, and it has a nice glossy finish to it. This one I got a couple of years ago when the Nintendo 3DS was out of production and they started getting more expensive. This one, of course, it's rocketed, ballooned out of control in price recently, and there's a lot of glare picking up, obviously, off of this one. It's very, very reflective, very shiny and glossy. I know a lot of people think this looks like some kind of shitty decal on the front plate of this Galaxy Special Edition. In person, this actually does look very, very nice. This one, I think, is the best Nintendo 3DS model, and I know a lot of people are gonna argue with me. Actually, the new Nintendo 2DS model is actually the best one, and it does look very, very comfortable, but I do like having this 3D toggle right here. When I do, in fact, want to check out when a game has 3D, and if it does 3D well, I think games like Samus Returns and other games on the 3DS really bring out that stereoscopic 3D in a way that benefits the games. And here is where we start switching it up like Nintendo, and we get into my first Nintendo Switch. Now this one, as you can see, is very beaten up and scratched, and that's for a very good reason. This one I got the very first day that the Nintendo Switch launched, and the reason I still have it around is not only the sentimental value of my first ever Nintendo Switch, even though, you know, the fan's broken, so yeah, I'm gonna have to open this up and fix this. The reason I also kept a hold of this one is because this one is easily hackable. So I can mod this one anytime I want, and it's going to be extremely easy for me to do so. You can, in fact, hack this thing with a paperclip. So for my main Nintendo Switch, after I broke the fan on the first one, I bought the V2 of the Nintendo Switch. This one came out a little bit after the Nintendo Switch launched, and hackers actually got to mod the system with a paperclip. So this one is not moddable, and they patched that. This one has a slightly better battery life than the other one, but yeah, obviously, you know, with these, I played Breath of the Wild, Snipper Clips, Mario Odyssey, all of the games that came out on the Switch during launch time. You know, I was in there. Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment was a timed exclusive. We had games like Super Bomberman R. I know a lot of people don't like Super Bomberman R, but for what it was, I think it really added to the launch lineup of the Nintendo Switch, and I overall think it's a very fun party game, but that's not what this video is about. Now, I know what you're about to say. Bloody Book, you already have 2 Nintendo Switches. Are you going to buy another one? This is the Nintendo Switch OLED. I got this a couple years ago when it came out, and that was around the time when Metroid Dread came out, and oh my gosh, playing that game on this OLED screen right here. I wasn't big on OLED technology at that point, and I've never really experienced an OLED screen on a device like this. But oh my gosh, playing this thing in bed, it's just so much better than anything else. And Metroid Dread was really the perfect game to really showcase how this screen worked with all those contrasting blacks and light colors throughout the whole galaxy. So the OLED is obviously my favorite model, and it has genuinely the best kickstand that's ever been on one of these devices. I mean, you can make it go all the way up if you wanted to. Like, you could lay this shit flat on the ground. If you're going to pick up a Nintendo Switch and you don't already have one, get this one. I know the Nintendo Switch 2 might be getting revealed tomorrow, and obviously, that's going in my collection. Let's be fucking honest. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my Nintendo handheld collection. Obviously, I've had more systems in the past that have broken and got thrown in the trash. You know, of course, I had the original Nintendo 3DS model that got broken in half. I had the original Nintendo 2DS, which also broke. And I do have a Nintendo 2DS lying around here, which I do not care to find. I mean, who likes the Nintendo 2DS?